You're gonna need a bigger boat. So serious.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the In Session Film Podcast.
Welcome to this Chasing the Gold episode for January 11th, 2023, or 24, rather. And I'm JD Duran. Joining me for this awesome episode that we're about to go down is our awards editor over at InSocialFilm.com, Brian Rowe. Brian, welcome back, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Good to see you once again. Also joining us is In Session film writer and all-around awesome person and sometimes weird movie opinions, and that's why we love him, the great Joey Gentile. Joey, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much. It's been so long since I've been here with you.
I know.
Pretty sure Mortal Kombat was actually the last time we recorded together.
It's been too long.
In a minute.
Yes, it has. It's been too long. But yeah, thanks for being here, Joey. It's always good to see you as well, my friend.
Of course.
There is so much to talk about. There's no way we're going to get to it all. With the Globes recently going down last week, we, of course, got nominations for SAG and DGA and cinematography and a bazillion other things. So we'll see how much we can get to on this episode. I guess first let's talk about those pesky Golden Globes. I, unfortunately, did not get a chance to see the ceremony because we were recording the In Session Film Awards, which is a much better show. You should go check it out. It's available right now, even. So go to YouTube or your podcast app of choice. It was a great time. So I did not get a chance to see the Globes. I'm curious to hear what you guys thought of the ceremony and the winners. Brian, well, we'll start with you. What did you think about this year's Golden Globes?
It was a weird ceremony in that I was really happy with the winners and many of the speeches were pretty solid, but the show itself had some issues. I didn't like the opening monologue. It set a bad tone right off the top. And it was very negative and condescending. And I'm just like, shouldn't we be celebrating these movies? It's just, I don't know. It just didn't go over very well.
Yeah.
And then there was something kind of off about just the presentations themselves. Like the presenters would come out and then they had their back to the audience, which looked weird. And then when they announced the nominees of each category, it'd be like the announcer person. And it was just very flat and it wasn't very personal. There was just something off about the entire show. I think I gave it in my YouTube video a D.
Oh, wow.
I didn't like it. And I mean, this is a problem with every award show too, but it was like 6-7 minutes. And then there'd be it felt like a 20-minute commercial break. And it would be like 5 commercials. And then it would cut back to the Golden Globes. Okay, we'll be right back to the Golden Globe. And then it'd be another 5-6 commercials. And in the third hour, I'm can I
speak to that real fast? That to me is absolutely hilarious because I have always joked and talked about how Oscars, the Globes, movie awards is sports. It is the same as sports. Mm-hmm. The reaction is often the same as sports. People have fandoms and they manufacture these rivalries and they speak to it in the same manner and tone. It's hilarious. Like the whole Bradley Cooper Maestro stuff, that's no different than me going on Twitter and jarring back and forth with Ohio State fans. It's the exact same. And so it's funny, I've always talked about it in that sense. What you're describing, Brian, is a college football broadcast. Verbatim. That's what you're talking about. When you watch college football, there'll be 3 plays, 5 minutes of commercials, 3 plays, 5 minutes of commercials. And no joke, when there's a touchdown scored, they will go to break after the touchdown, do the goddamn kickoff, go to another 5 minutes of commercials, and then back. It makes no sense. It's so dumb. I love the sport, but it is a miserable experience watching on TV. And so that is hilarious because that's exactly what you just described.
Yeah, and it just got grating after a while, and part of me was like, I love award season, but this show should be shorter, and it like it just kept going on and on and on. I was like, okay, I just wanted to know who wins this and this and this,
Yeah,
like, and
no,
then
I
I'm
hear
done.
you.
Like, get me out of here.
Get to the game.
But the wins themselves were solid. Usually the Globes give us one or two shockers or one or two like eye rolling, like what? And that didn't happen this year. There wasn't one win I was like, oh, that's not good. Like I was pretty happy with all the wins. It was mostly predictable, I would say. Like there wasn't, I was like, come on, give us like a Rosamund Pike Saltburn win.
Sure. Just kick it up. Yeah.
But it didn't happen. And so my worry is that like our main winners at Golden Globes will just like sweep all the way to Oscar night. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I'm hoping we get some surprises along the way.
Yeah. All right, Joey, what do you think?
Well, my initial reaction hearing Brian talk about the commercial thing is like, I'm really intrigued to see how SAG is going to do this because it's streaming on Netflix for the show.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's,
and they've had issues in the past with streaming live.
Well, that, but also too, like, are they really going to add commercials to Netflix? Is this going to be a 20-minute we're in, we're out? Like, how is this going to work?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was just glad to see the Golden Globes back. I was glad that we finally got a reaction cam for the first time for the nominees. I thought it was odd that we got clips and what seemed to be really long clips of like the comedy specials, for an example, but then like no acting clips. I'm like, we want the acting clips.
Yes.
What?
Like,
that's so
like,
weird.
It didn't make any sense to me. I got to agree with Brian. Like overall, the winners were, I mean, out of a personal thing of Lily Gladstone for me, I'm like, these winners are pretty solid. Like, so like I'm pretty chill with them. But I need chaos. I like chaos. I like to see people's predictions go haywire. Like the reactions, for an example, to Andrea Riseborough getting in last year, for me was like, haha, I told you. And for other people, it was like, what is going on? Like, I need that chaos to thrive.
Sure.
Breathe off of. Pretty predictable. Yeah, I agree. But like, yeah, the monologue thing. Listen, a big part of why I'm doing this episode with you is to get like the comedic perspective of what went down. I mean, I literally was and am a person who pays his bills being booked in comedy clubs across the country. So it's like something that, you know, read the room, you got to know how to do, blah, blah, blah. I've got issues with it. I don't think you can be truly offensive in comedy. I think comedians are there to start conversations, but you have to be funny. You can't be controversial and not funny. And that's what we got. So there's a line that was towed that he crossed. And I also have like an issue with the industry coming off of a writer's strike and then to throw your writers under the bus.
Yeah, that's not great.
No. So those are my big issues. But overall, I agree with Brian. Like it was a pretty okay, we know what's coming show.
On that note, the only caveat, and I pose this maybe mostly as a question, since you guys would certainly know more than me, but the one interesting winner of the night that I thought, because I don't know if I would have expected it per se, given another film that came out earlier in the year that was such a heavy contender in this category, Hayao Miyazaki winning for animated. First time that he's won at a major award show over here, I believe, something to that effect. First Globes win, anyway, I think is what it was. But The Boy and the Heron taking animated over Spider-Verse. That's a little bit of a surprise. Yes? No? Maybe so?
Yeah, I kind of thought his film was going to win because there's not like a big Disney player this year. Their films have kind of floundered. So really Spider-Man is the only competition. And I keep going back to how that movie ends. It sets up the next one. It doesn't really, I loved it, but it doesn't really feel like a complete movie, whereas Boy does. So I think Boy and the Heron will probably win at the Oscars too.
Okay. I would push back against that a little bit in the sense that I do think it concludes the emotional arc set up in that film in a Empire Strikes Back kind of way. Even though, like Empire Strikes Back, certainly sets up the next film. So, I mean, to be fair to what you're saying there, but it's also Spider-Verse. The first one was so huge, obviously. This one was a massive hit as well. And Studio Ghibli just doesn't compete in terms of actually winning these awards usually. A lot of them have been nominated, but they haven't actually won much.
Yeah, I think Spirited Away is the only Oscar
other
winner
one.
for animated feature, I think. It was
which
really
is
early
very
on.
poetic, considering that was the first year animated feature was a thing for Oscar.
Yeah.
And then if this is Miyazaki's true last movie, for him to get the first one and essentially the last one,
Yeah,
chef's kiss.
interesting.
I think it was
love
the second
both,
year.
but-
Was it the second year?
I think the first year was Shrek, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that is that. Yeah, that
Because
is right.
I remember being like, Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius is nominated for
Was
best
Shrek
animated feature.
2000?
Shrek was 01, and
2001.
then Spirited Away was 02.
Yeah.
Just my like vague recollection.
Yeah. No,
of the
that's right,
beginning.
because we just did our 2001 retrospective on the podcast this last year, so we did briefly talk about that. Yeah. So
Because for the most part, like between like the start of that category to the end of that decade, it was almost always Pixar.
Yeah.
So you had to find years that didn't have a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
Like a Spirited Away or
Yeah.
Wallace and Gromit one, I think.
Oh, see, I miss that claymation. Like Laika is my favorite animated studio, and like the fact they haven't won yet, I'm just like,
I know. I
at
love
least
Laika.
get that Wallace and Gromit one to get that claymation animation. I'm like, let's do it.
I know.
I'll
And
take
not
it.
that we have to spend too much time on it, but as I noted, there's a bazillion nominations out right now. But the Annie Awards just had their nominations, and there's no Pixar or Disney, and for Best Picture, which again, it's a down year for them, so it makes sense. But it's still a surprise because it's Disney and Pixar.
It's kind of nice though too, because like I mean, to really kind of give a decade throwback, like I remember, I think it was 2011 when Chico and Rita was nominated, and I'm like, I want these old school like classic hand-drawn movies to win again or have a chance, because it has been dominated by that animatronic computer animated style for so long. So it's kind of nice to see Disney and Pixar being like, okay, we'll take the back burner for right now. It's like, yes, let's get more options in here. So I think I'm okay with it, to be honest.
Well, and that's interesting because you look at the animation styles of Spider-Verse and Boy and the Heron, and they're so distinctly different from what you usually get with Disney and Pixar these days. So, I mean, great stories. What's there on the page, it starts there for sure, but the animation style certainly take them to a whole new level. Anyway, I didn't mean to sidetrack us there, but I thought that category was still, maybe a little more noteworthy.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I did a predictions video, and the only two I got wrong. First was screenplay, which I feel like most people got wrong. I would have had Anatomy of a Fall in like 5th or 6th. I did not think that was going to win, especially because the director was not nominated in the directing category.
Yeah.
Whereas most of the people in screenplay were also in director. Like Celine Song, I thought might win screenplay at the Globes for Past Lives. I was like, come on. Because that's my favorite film of the year. Yeah. And then they gave it to Anatomy of a Fall. I was like, oh, that's a choice. That's cool. That's
still
also a great movie.
Script. Yeah, I love that screenplay as well.
It's fantastic. And then the other one, boy, I got shit on online because I thought Bradley Cooper was going to win Best Actor over Cillian Murphy. Yeah. And it's an interesting situation because I much prefer Cillian Murphy. Like, that's my choice of the two. But Bradley Cooper has been nominated a lot throughout the years, and he directed the movie. He got into director.
Yeah.
It's a much showier role, and he ages and black and white color and all this stuff going on. And I'm like, I feel like this year he's maybe going to edge out Murphy, but then Murphy wins at the Globes. And in some way, I feel like that was the easiest award of the season for Cooper to win. Yeah. But then now I'm like, wait, is Murphy gonna win at the beginning, and then maybe like Cooper wins at SAG, and then Cooper takes it to Oscar night? Could also happen. I don't know. Yeah. And boy, the Murphy fans are gonna go absolutely batshit crazy if that happens. Yeah. If it's starting to look like it's Murphy's time, but then they go with Cooper at the end. I'm a little nervous about that happening, but right now it looks like Murphy is in first place for sure.
Yeah. Is that who you would vote for personally? Like, if you had a vote, would you pick Cooper or would you go with Murphy?
I would pick Paul Giamatti for The Holdover.
I would too. Again, spoiler alert for the In Session Film Awards. That's my performance of the year as well.
I love him as an actor. I always have. I think he should have been in second place for the Oscar win for Sideways, and he wasn't even nominated, which was insane.
He's my winner for Cinderella Man, though. Let me tell you.
And then Cinderella Man, he's great in that, and he won the SAG award for Cinderella Man, which I don't think everyone knows or remembers. And so I feel like Giamatti has a shot of surprising somewhere, potentially at SAG. I mean, who knows? The Holdovers is very beloved this season.
It is.
So it'll feel weird if the only thing he wins this whole season at the televised ceremonies is Golden Globe and a comedy, and that's it. Like I don't know. I feel like it's possible Cooper and Murphy could like split enough votes at SAG or something, and Giamatti takes it. That would be so cool. I would love that.
I would love that too. I mean, and I love Cillian Murphy. I will have no issues with him winning whatsoever. I do think you make a great argument for Cooper in terms of the, I guess, political maneuverings that often happens with these award shows. I mean, it makes sense given how many times he's been nominated before, how loved he is. I could have seen that happening. Absolutely. It's
part of why from the very beginning, I thought Brendan Fraser was going to win the Oscar for The Whale, was the physical transformation and how just of a dramatic heft that movie had for him. And he had a narrative, kind of an actor who had been around a while, but hadn't had that, that great comeback in many, many years. And Bradley Cooper kind of has that narrative too. I mean, he has 9 Oscar nominations he's never won. They're not all for acting. But it will feel weird.
That man is going to kill someone this year if he loses.
And he's become the villain of the season. It's
I don't get it. It's such a performance.
I don't understand. Like I get maybe he does a little bit too much in some of the interviews and like saying like, oh, I worked on this for 6 years. And there's some things that he says, I'm like, dude, calm down. But like people are like, they've got the knives sharpened for this guy. And he made, I thought, a pretty solid movie. He's very good in it. He did a good directing job.
That's why it's sports.
It's like everybody needs to calm down.
that's why I go back to it, Brian. Like I'm telling you, like the behavior is the same. Like what you're describing is what I see in Ohio State fans right now because Michigan won the national championship. Okay, they're going crazy.
Someone lives in Cleveland. Let me tell you, I'm not a sports person, but I know exactly what you mean.
You know what I mean? They're losing their minds in the exact same way. Like there's no level of objectivity to it. Like they have to manufacture it. Like it is the same exact behavior. Like it makes no sense. But it's a competition and that's how it's being treated. But I agree with you. It's ridiculous. And if anything, I think the whole 6 years thing, and he's somewhat admitted to this in the interviews, is like I'm not good enough of an actor to do it any other way, is essentially what he's saying. And that's fine. If that's his process, if that's what he needs to do to deliver that kind of performance, then there's nothing wrong with that. Like it works for the film and he's very good in it. So I like, it's not a top 5 for me, but I'm not going to sit here and completely bash it. Like, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. I kind of love the garishness of his direction in that film. Like I have no problem with it.
I loved Maestro. I thought it was beautiful. Yeah. I loved that movie. It's my number 6 of the year. Like I fell in love with Maestro. I mean, there's so much passion behind that. So I don't really understand the hate behind it. I'm not on that train.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I mean, when Murphy wins, Cooper immediately gets up and gives him a standing O. And then I think right at the end of Murphy's speech, they cut to Cooper and he's kind of looking a certain way. And then all over online, you're seeing these still images of Cooper and everyone's like, oh, he's going to kill someone and blah, blah. It's like, you are just making a narrative out of this. It's ridiculous. Yeah, of course, he would have liked to have won the award, I'm sure. But he's not sitting there like just scowling at Cillian Murphy. Give me a break.
And that's the thing. Like, because I saw that sentiment. I didn't see the ceremony, obviously, but I saw the sentiment, so I had to look it up. That's not what's happening.
No, remember that this happened last year with Angela Bassett. Yeah. And it's like it makes me like Twitter would have lost their minds if they were around with like Talia Shire or Sally Kirkland or Jennifer Tilly at that time. Like, find me an actor who doesn't want to win an Oscar.
Yeah, unless you don't show up to the ceremony, like truly screw this. Get out of here. They all want to win. That's why
Yeah.
they're there.
Yeah, and if you look really closely, what's funny is that so Angela Bassett just sits there, and obviously she has like a moment of disappointment, but then very quickly we cut to Jamie Lee Curtis, and then when she's walking up on stage, like just where Jamie Lee is, you can't quite see Angela Bassett, so you could make this argument, oh, she's still sitting there pouting. But if you look very closely for a split second, she is on her feet applauding. Like seconds later, she just had a moment. I mean, and it makes sense to me. I feel like we should see it more often rather than just like the quick like this. Like Angela Bassett had a shot, I think, to win that night. She'd won a couple precursors, and so you can have like 3 seconds of like, oh, it's okay.
There's their human element. When you lose, of course you're going to feel that way. That's perfectly fine.
And then Angela just this week won an Oscar anyway, so it's all good.
Exactly.
She got her honorary Oscar.
Yeah. What did you think of the female winners of the night? Divine Joy Randolph. That's very exciting.
I don't love the holdovers, but Divine Joy Randolph I think was the best thing of the holdovers. Like I remember after the press screening, the rep for the studio was like, "So give us a blurb," and I was like, "Better than Payne's last outing, but really only survives for me because of Randolph." It was like, "Start her Oscar campaign now," I think is what I told them. I just can't fathom in supporting this year how people are watching The Color Purple and checking off Danielle Brooks's name over Taraji P. Henson. It makes no sense to me. So that's on a personal level really pissing me off. But we all have our favorites. We all have the ones we don't like. Like I would get rid of the May December nominees and like make room and get rid of Brooks and make room. But I love Rosamund Pike in there. I loved Emily Blunt in there. I essentially do love Randolph in there. Comedy actress is kind of where I thought there was going to be a spoiler. I thought the Alma Poisty nomination was so random. Like
It's an inspired pick though.
Right. Like you couldn't ignore it type. Like I wasn't predicting, but in the there's like a film Twitter group that I started a couple years ago for the awards where it's kind of like a fantasy football thing. Speaking of sports. So we placed bets, and that was my big go big or go home bet that night was Alma winning. But I personally wanted Jennifer Lawrence out of that, but I don't hate Emma Stone is the only thing I like about Poor Things. So I was like, that's fine. This Lily Gladstone thing, I am not on this train though. Lily Gladstone is an amazing actress, but she is so wasted in this movie. She's got nothing to do, and she's a wooden statue the entire movie, except for the one scene where she cries for 3 seconds. So I don't like that she's winning. Good for her. Someone new winning, absolutely, but it's the only one I have the biggest issue with is Lily Gladstone winning right now.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I love her as a person, Lily Gladstone, and I've seen her in a couple things. Like her performance in Certain Women is incredible, and she's good in Killers of the Flower Moon. But what did I read online? She's in 27% of the movie, and the second half of the film, she doesn't really get much to do at all. It's very baffling to me if she goes on to sweep the season for best lead actress. Is very weird to me.
And that I guess where I differ from you guys in this conversation, I love her in that film. I think she actually gives a pathos to it that complements the whole vision that Scorsese has, especially given that coda we get there at the end. But I do agree that it is a little, I admire her conviction to campaign for lead, but it does feel more like a supporting performance to me. I mean, we discussed this on the In Session Film Awards as well, because none of the four of us nominated her because we didn't really know what to do with that performance either. Like, it feels a little strange to put her in supporting when she's very actively campaigning for lead. And I also don't know if I'm comfortable putting her in lead because it, in essence, is a supporting performance. I think it's great. I think it's vital for that movie. I think it works very efficiently for that movie. I just don't think it's a lead. I admire what she's doing though, and I guess I don't have a problem with the win, but it also does feel a little weird because it is more of a supporting performance.
Yeah, I think she has a narrative, but when you compare that performance to like Sandra Hüller in Anatomy of a Fall, to Greta Lee in Past Lives, and Emma Stone in Poor Things,
Yeah,
that for me is the performance of the year. Emma Stone in Poor Things,
she's
like,
my favorite.
blew my mind. And I mean, just the performance, to compare Emma Stone in Poor Things to Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon, and every time out we pick Gladstone, is weird to me. But that's just, I mean, Emma Stone has had a lot of success. She's won an Oscar for La La Land, and I think that's going to hurt her in the long run. It's like, well, do we really want to give Emma, what is she, 35, 36? Like, we're going to give her a second Oscar. It's happened before for like Hilary Swank and Jodie Foster were both pretty young when they won two pretty close back to back, a few years apart. But just at the performance level, if that's what we're voting on, it's a little weird to me. But I'm also a fan of her work, and she I mean, I loved her speech at the Golden Globes was maybe my favorite of the night. Like, she gave a great speech. Yeah, she's just such a warm person that I'm totally personality. So I'm totally happy if she wins everything. It's not, I'm not going to be in the corner like, oh man. But like, it just, on a performance level, it doesn't seem to be strong enough for me to win Best Lead Actress of the Year for me.
Yeah, and it's like, for me, it's I agree 100%. I'm like, great actress, but it's like, if the two are Stone versus Stone right now, and you're looking at that, and you're like, what's happening? Listen, after last year, I just can't do two underwhelming Best Actress wins back to back.
Oh, no.
I can't do it. I can't. I will break down and cry, and I can't do it. I can't do it 2 years in a row. I'm sorry. I can't.
No, Michelle Yeoh was a great win. The two before Yeoh were bad.
I gotta fight you here.
Listen, since 1968, I've only agreed with 4 winners in lead actress.
Okay.
Okay.
Like, I think like Jessica Chastain for The Eyes of Tammy Faye is a much more underwhelming win, I think, than Michelle Yeoh. Come on.
Michelle Yeoh was my performance.
Jessica, I wanted Olivia Colman out of that
me too.
That year, but I'll take Chastain over Yeoh, let me tell you.
Oh my.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Agree to disagree.
It's totally fine. It's totally fine. I just can't do it 2 years back to back. I can't.
Okay. Fair enough.
I mean, Yeoh does everything in everything. like that is a big performance.
Put it this way, Brian. I would nominate Everything Ever All at Once for only 2 Oscars: editing and Stephanie Hsu. The rest of it can go in the trash. I hate that movie.
Oh my!
So you weren't a happy camper watching the last Oscar ceremony.
Oh no!
It just won everything.
Oh, I was like, I hate that movie so much. Stephanie Hsu was amazing. I would have given her supporting. I would have given it editing for sure. But everything else, it's a Sci-Fi Channel movie. It's not for Oscar.
I agree that it's weird and different for the Oscars, but I think it's genuinely fantastic and awesome and deserving. But it's just the kind of movie that typically, like 20 years ago, wouldn't have even touched the Oscars. I think that's what's fascinating about it. I would say the same thing about Poor Things. 30 years ago, that film's not touching the Oscars. Like, the way that things have changed since 2016 is incredible to me. Like, the zone of interest, that even being in the conversation at all blows my mind. But I'll say this. Anyone listening or watching, I said at the beginning of this is why we love Joey. He's going to bring unconventionality to all of this.
And it's so funny because everyone's like, people who don't know me or have not ever talked or just go off a Twitter person, they're like, you're such a curmudgeon, you're such an a-hole. I'm like, I'm not.
No, he's one
like,
of the
I mean, even Brian, like, this is the first time we've actually like talked head and head, but like, I'll retweet Brian. I'm like, show your work, explain, tell me.
Yes, I've seen that.
and it's never like a mean or personal thing. I'm just like, show your work. Yeah. Like, that's all I ask.
Well, we agree on a lot. I totally agree with you. I think Taraji P. Henson is the best performance in The Color Purple.
Yeah.
For months, I was hearing, Daniel Brooks is kind of going to be the standout. And then when it started getting screenings in November, everybody said MVP is Daniel Brooks. I was a little underwhelmed by her performance. Not the performance, really. She's not in the movie very much. Like, she has that one great song. Yeah. And then she disappears for a while. Yeah. And then when she goes to jail, like, we don't see her for a long. Like, Taraji P. Henson is in more of the movie and she has, I feel like, more dramatic heft and weight, and like she's got some great moments with Fantasia Barrino.
Yeah.
That it does kind of surprise me that she has just been completely passed over, and Daniel Brooks
I see
is
the
getting
argument for both, honestly. Like I don't think it has to be mutually exclusive. Maybe that's where my argument lies. Because maybe it depends on what you like. Because for me, I love the electricity of Brooks, like completely magnetic. But you're right that Henson brings this heft to the film that is wonderfully woven into the emotional undercurrent of that film, especially in the back half. That's really great. So like, I don't have an issue either way. Like I think you win no matter which one gets nominated, or both especially. So,
and I feel like there's room for her in supporting actress, because there is somebody who keeps getting in at every ceremony, and I don't get it, guys. And I'm not reading anything online. Can you guess?
Jodie Foster?
No.
See, I like Jodie Foster and Naya, but I thought that might have been the one for you.
No, she's good. I like her and Nayad.
Who's the one then?
It was the only flaw I had with the whole movie. It's the movie everybody loves.
Barbie?
No.
Wait, hold on.
Mulligan.
I thought the only flaw in
Priscilla.
Oppenheimer was the Emily Blunt character.
Okay.
I found her performance underwhelming. I thought the character was underwritten, and she's got one great scene at the end, but in a 3-hour movie, she doesn't really do much. And I don't understand that she's just like gonna get in everywhere.
I would push back.
It's very weird to me.
I would push back. I can call out 3 scenes that you could use as Oscar clips.
Okay.
Well,
besides the interrogation scene, what's another great scene?
The interrogation. Well, there's their interrogation scene, but the one I'm thinking of in the interrogation room isn't even her interrogation. It's her reaction to the sex scene. I think is maybe her best moment in that film.
Okay.
But again, I prefer subtlety than the loud bombacity of performances usually. And that's a moment where she doesn't speak. The camera just kind of slowly pans in on her as you see her rage just erupting like a bomb's going off, if you will. And then there's the interrogation moment later on, which is more of a, crowd pleasing moment, I guess. And then there's what we get at the end. And there's a couple of scenes at the end or toward the end of the film. And there's a moment where she confronts Robert after he kind of has an issue there when they're in New Mexico. And then there's of course the big scene at the end of the film, again a little bit more of a crowd pleasing. But I think you could choose any one of those. I don't disagree that it's a little underwritten, but it's also not about her. Like I think maintaining the emphasis on Robert and everything around him was the right call there. But I think there's enough that Emily Blunt chews on in her performance. Like she takes what is maybe a little lesser on the page and gives it like way more that's actually there, which is a testament to her performance. I like, again, I'm not saying it's worthy of being in a 5. I'll let you guys figure that out. But I think it is a really great performance that works very well for that movie.
I like her in it. I would also like to put in that scene in the hotel where she throws the liquor bottle down and she's like, get it together. Like
that's another one. Yeah.
The one that I just can't really wrap my head around is Julianne Moore here again, but I really hated May December, like hated it.
Oh, it's on my top 10.
Same here.
I love it for you guys. I love it for you guys. I remember when I was just watching, I was just like, this can't be serious, right? We didn't go from Carol to this. And
sure we did. It's Todd Haynes.
No,
both of them have his thumbprint all over it.
Unacceptable to me. This feels like a Lifetime movie. Like last year we got the Sci-Fi Channel movie with Everything Everywhere All at Once, and now we're getting a Lifetime movie at the Oscars. No. And the thing is the person I can't figure out who isn't making anything is Alison Oliver from Saltburn, because that bathtub scene especially, I'm like, this whole 6-minute monologue is a clip. It's a giant Oscar clip. Where is she? She's not showing up anywhere. She's not going to show up, but like, where is she?
The movie is just too weird. It's too out there. I knew when I walked out of Telluride, I said, this is one of my 5 favorite films of the year. And I don't think it's going to get anywhere. The fact that it got 2 Golden Globe nominations and a Critics' Choice nomination for picture was surprising to me. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
I mean, to be fair though, if this is a season that like Poor Things, you can't sit here, Brian, and tell me that Poor Things isn't less strange.
Yeah, but no, Saltburn. I mean, like the licking of the tub and
it's a little
him
bit more
like
crass,
having
for
sex
sure.
with dirt
Yeah.
That's
in
a
a single
Tuesday.
shot
Yeah.
for like
Yeah.
2 minutes long. Like there are things in Saltburn where it goes to some really, really crazy places.
Yeah, it's certainly much
narrative.
more crass. Yeah.
Whereas Poor Things has sex, but it's a little bit more, you know, it kind of rings it in with the narrative a little better, I would say, in Poor Things, at least for like a general audience. You're not sitting there watching Poor Things.
I understand what you mean.
And Emma Stone is just like, you know, it's like a 2-minute long sex scene with her without a cut, and the audience is like, what? Like, you don't get that in Poor Thing.
Yeah.
Poor Things is a softcore porn. If we're being honest.
At times,
it is a softcore porn. I sat in that
times.
theater and I was like, I feel really close with all these people here, and I'm not a shy person. But
yeah,
I can't believe I'm saying this, but Sasha Stone was correct. That movie is a softcore porn. I was like, wow, all right, we're doing this.
And
it's so good. I love Poor Things.
I love
it's fantastic.
That's great. And again, like if we're just talking, maybe this is less weird, but I feel like it's still out there in a similar-ish kind of way. Is the Zone of Interest? If that really is a player, that is.
Yeah, I have
movie.
been assuming for months it will be a big player, and now I'm not so sure. It's really not showing up anywhere very much. I mean, here and there it gets a nomination.
Yeah,
I mean,
not,
I don't think it's this year's like All Quiet on the Western Front where we're like, oh, I don't know how it's going to do, and then it like explodes on Oscar nominations morning. It's in a picture and director and a bunch of stuff, supporting actress. But I will be surprised if on Oscar nominations morning it doesn't get anything, or it only gets like one technical. Like I feel like that movie is going to do better than we're thinking at the Oscars.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
But
Joey, what I'm curious what you think of it if you've seen it.
I think it's great. I think it's interesting how Sandra Hüller, love her, by the way, especially in Anatomy of a Fall. But
oh yeah,
I think her narrative for this is super interesting. Going into this season, being like, oh, we have a possible another double nominee for the first time since ScarJo, and then for the first time since that, I think since Jamie Foxx. And it's weird how that fizzled to almost the point of we don't even know if she's going to get in. I know we're going to talk about SAG, but I mean, I wasn't really expecting her to get into SAG, because SAG, ever since they merged with AFTRA, they don't nominate foreign language performances, because Marion Cotillard was the last one for Rust and Bone. They used to always get in, but now they don't at all. So that was not, I was expecting that to not happen. But it's weird to go from like that narrative of here she is in Zone and Anatomy, she's going to double nominee, to where is she even getting into lead? And then plus two, I think, giving the whole perspective of like, I'm neighbors to Nazis, and it's very time, I don't want to say time friendly, but it's very, the timing is too perfect for what's really going on in the world. So I felt the movie as a whole was really, really good. Hüller, of course, is the big standout, but I'd love to see her pop in for a double nominee here. I don't think it's going to happen, though.
You mentioned SAG. I do want to talk about that, maybe a few other things. But regarding the Globes, do you guys have any final thoughts on the Globes, or anything else you want to touch on, Brian?
Well, I mean, it's the first big televised ceremony of the year, and I think if you look to like what won and what's in first place, like Oppenheimer did very, very well. And I think it's going to be hard for any movie to beat Oppenheimer for Best Picture from now until Oscar night. Like it's kind of boring 2 months out, but I think Oppenheimer has it in the bag already at the Oscars for picture and director.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like done deal at this point. Probably Robert Downey Jr. as well.
Actor?
I don't think Murphy has that in the bag yet.
Okay.
I think Cooper and Giamatti are going to give him a little fight. And I'm not convinced that Murphy is going to win SAG. I feel like there could be a surprise there. Okay. And if he doesn't take SAG, then we have a real race going into Oscar night. I do think kind of like Everything Everywhere All at Once, Joey's favorite. Last year, when you have a competitive acting category and you are kind of neck and neck with one or two others, if you're in the stronger movie that's going to win picture and director, you typically will take it in the end. I mean, it doesn't always happen, but I do feel like if it's neck and neck, Murphy probably still takes the Oscar for actor over Cooper or Giamatti.
Okay. Joey, do you have any final thoughts on the Globes?
Yeah, I do think this is and first of all, as a gay man, especially, I can't believe I tweeted this the other day, but I think this is a very rare year where the women's categories are super boring and there are more interesting races happening with the men. I can't think of a last time that really happened for me. But the one thing on the Globe that we didn't touch at all that I really just want to get out there is this extra category they brought in this year to essentially, I feel like, give Barbie a win. Here's the thing. A lot of people complain about this. I don't mind it. We always, as film lovers, as cinephiles, as people who go into these awards, like, you know, the big sports ball games, like we do that and we love it. We're always like, we want more awards. The big example I always give is like, I am very against gender neutral categories. Like, no, that takes away. We need to have them separated. And if you want to be a non-binary actor, let's create that category for non-binary acting. The Oscars have a category that is never used. It's eligible. It's Best Original Musical. They've never given it out because we don't have enough original musicals coming in. It's getting dusty on the shelf. So let's do that with a binary actor, right? So everyone will be like, well, we don't have a Best Directress. Why not? Let's do it. Let's honor more movies and get a Best Directress if that's the example you want to use. So I'm okay with other movies getting a box office award or other movies getting best poster. I don't care. Let's honor more movies. I loved that extra category. I didn't love who it went to, but I love the category.
I think it becomes kind of a joke, though, if you start just throwing a bunch of random categories
Fair
like
point.
that.
Fair point.
And I do feel like it felt kind of like, and you know, almost like an honorary prize or like a, oh, well, Barbie can't win over Poor Things in motion pictures, so let's give it this other thing. And I thought it was weird how the whole room like got up on their feet as if Barbie had just won Best Picture at the Oscars. I was like, we know what this category is, right?
Yeah. I don't understand why there's nominees. If it's cinematic and box office achievement, there's an objective metric there.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to vote on this. Like, it won the box office. Like,
Yep.
financially.
And apparently Barbie, like I saw it today, like they're promoting it, like advertising, like Golden Globe winner, Best Picture, and then in like small font it has cinematic and box office achievement. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Okay, so
That's hilarious.
when I did my interview
so
with Sally
good.
Kirkland, that's a very Sally Kirkland way to do it. Love that woman. But the way she's so smart when doing this, she's like, yeah, when I won the Oscar nomination, and I'm like,
Won the nomination.
which is that's been said on Oscar stage before announcing nominees, and I'm like, girl, you stuck with that, you ran with it, good for you.
Okay, before we move on, one other category I want to quickly talk about because it's my favorite category. Brian, you noted a few others that Oppenheimer has in the bag, and this is another one as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if it is in a voting sense, but Ludwig Göransson for Best Original Score should also be a lock for that category.
There's no one's beating him. That's an amazing score.
Incredible, especially given the response to the live orchestra showing that is plastered all over social media right now. I mean,
and didn't he get a standing ovation at the Globes?
Yep.
Like composers don't often get standing ovations when they win original score, so that was cool.
That is a beloved score,
and
for good reason.
And he's cute, so we get to watch him go on stage all season. I'm about it.
It was like that editor of Everything Everywhere All at Once. He was so hot, and every time he won, I'm like, oh, this will be a good couple minutes.
All right, so that is the Golden Globes for this year. What should we talk about next? The SAG nominations? You guys want to go there?
Yeah,
next?
SAG.
Yeah.
All right, what did you guys think about SAG this year? Brian?
It was kind of boring. I wanted more surprises. Usually at SAG, we get 3 or 4 kind of like, whoa, what? Like crazy nominations. And this year, it was really just Penelope Cruz got into supporting actress for Ferrari. She did not show up at Golden Globes or Critics' Choice. Before SAG, I have been saying, I think Penelope Cruz is getting into the Oscars because they love her. And I didn't really like Ferrari that much, but she is great in it. Like every time she is on screen, I was into it, and it's a big performance. And I'm like, I think we're underestimating this performance from Cruz. And her getting in at SAG tells me I'm like 99%.
Yeah, I love
like
it.
she's going to get in at the Oscars too. I would say the other surprise was Mark Ruffalo not getting in for Poor Things.
Yeah.
I think that when I saw that movie, A Telluride, I thought that could be the performance that wins at the Oscars. I thought, okay, it's going to be him versus Robert Downey Jr. And for Ruffalo to miss at SAG, that's not good. And it's a very actor. I feel like it's like an actor friendly performance. I mean, what he does in that movie, it's again kind of big and boisterous. And I'm like, wow, really? They went with Dafoe instead. That's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because it was flipped to Critics' Choice, I think. Was it Critics' Choice? Ruffalo got in, but not Dafoe. It's one of those things where that movie has two great supporting actor performances. And it's like, well, do we have them both get in? Do we just have the one? Because when it's only 5 nominees instead of 6, someone's got to be left out. And I do think Ruffalo is still in at the Oscars. That would be shocking to me.
It feels more like an Oscar performance.
If he didn't get in.
I love Dafoe, but...
Because someone said that he missed for Spotlight at SAG, Ruffalo, and then he got in at the Oscars. So
yeah, for sure.
I think he's still in at the Oscars, but that was kind of a surprise. Even though I loved May December more than Joey, I was kind of like, I don't think that's getting in at SAG. Same thing with Past Lives. I was like, Past Lives is way too quiet of a movie. It's a small film. I'm like, I don't like. Maybe Greta Lee could get it, but. Like it was too small of a cast to get Best Ensemble. And I was not surprised when Greta Lee missed there. I'm still like, I know it's like kind of small chance, but I'm still hoping Greta Lee can make it in at the Oscars. Someone big would have to fall out, like a Margot Robbie or a Carey Mulligan or something, which I don't know if that'll happen, but I still have,
there might
still
not
have
be
hope.
a
Greta
lot of
Lee
love for Maestro after all.
That's, honestly, the other, I really enjoyed Maestro. Carey Mulligan is excellent in that movie. She doesn't have to get into lead actress at every ceremony. That's just my opinion. But like, she could miss one of them if that happens. But yeah, I was like, especially in lead actor and lead actress, I was like, okay, give me something exciting here. Someone we haven't seen before or something. I thought maybe Zac Efron could be a shocker for the Iron Claw.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Because that movie came out very late and he gives a great performance in it. I didn't love the movie, but he's really good in it. He has that amazing final scene. So I was like, oh, he might get in at SAG.
Yeah.
And then it was just kind of like your 5 standard guys. And then the only one who missed was DiCaprio for Killers of the Flower Moon, which is kind of surprising, I guess you could say, but Coleman Domingo is so good. And Coleman Domingo, I mean, Rustin is just a so-so movie, but Domingo is so great in it. I was worried that movie might fade and he would just be gone. I'm still nervous about Domingo's chances at the Oscars. He could be that person who misses, but the fact that he's gotten into all the 3 televised ceremonies is really great. And Best Ensemble, I mean, some people said that they didn't expect Poor Things to get in there. I guess the cast is too small, but because in Ensemble they nominated like the big cast of all of these movies. So when they finished reading off the nominations, I was a little disappointed because I wanted more surprises. Was my reaction.
Okay, Joey, what did you think?
I agree. I think they're boring. They're just like BAFTAs where it's going to be really fun. I feel. I want to start with this. If John Wick Chapter 4 doesn't win stunts, what are we doing with this category? And why is Barbie there?
Because
maybe
the beach
Barbie will win.
I can't with that movie. No, I think the biggest thing for me is Sterling K. Brown. I was not expecting that. I really liked American Fiction. I really like Jeffrey Wright. I don't know what Sterling K. Brown does in this movie for a nomination. I also it was never, I mean, there was some talk about it this summer when it came out, but again, I know Barbie, it's the big movie of the summer, but when Jason Momoa in Fast X is that good and we're not putting the big blockbuster nomination to him and we're giving it to Ryan Gosling, I'm just like, what are we doing here?
Because Gosling's better. That's
false.
Right. He's
false,
way better.
Wait, do you really believe that?
Yeah, I truly believe that.
No,
in fact,
no,
again,
Joey, do you believe
okay.
that Jason Momoa is deserving of a awards nomination for Fast X?
Oh
Or are you
yeah,
just joking? You're
he-
real. Okay.
I mean, he got a nomination in the summer for that like mid-year or something for supporting actor.
Oh.
But like there was actual Oscar buzz and talk when the movie first came out.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah, I got so excited when it came out. I was like, it's finally going to happen. We're here. And
No,
Joey just making things up again.
No,
Fast and the Furious is never going to get an acting nomination.
No.
Come on.
Listen, I don't
He's
want to
fun
hear,
though. He's really fun in that movie.
Here's I'm going to push back. Hold on.
Okay.
If we can give a Sci-Fi Channel movie all these nominations and wins from last year, I don't ever want to hear again that something is too weird, something is too out there.
No, it's not about it being weird. It's like a big franchise series on what its
No,
10th
I get
movie.
it. I know he's not going to get it, but I'm just like, why are we wasting this summer blockbuster spot on Barbie for Ryan Gosling when Momoa is right there? But no, anyway, like Andrew Scott missing Scott.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
He's great.
Scott, Cooper, and Murphy are my three that I love this season for actor.
Yeah.
The women are so boring this year, guys. They are so boring.
I will say this, Joey, to be fair to you, I don't agree that Momoa should get an Oscar nomination.
Oh, we're still on
the conversation. But generally speaking, I would like it if the Academy or really all of these groups would include genre more. Regardless of it, sci-fi, horror especially has been a big talking point, and maybe even the big schlocky blockbuster superhero movies or the Fast and Furious, because like there can be really great performances in these films. In fact, one that I talked about, I'm going to keep plugging it because it's a lot of work that we put into it. But on the In Session Film Awards, I had a little thing where I talked about the best overlooked performances of the year. And one of them for me is Bradley Cooper. I think he gives maybe his best performance of 2023 in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Would that be lead or supporting?
Supporting, I guess. I don't know, lead. He is kind of the main
Maybe
character.
he'll miss for Maestro at the Oscars, but he'll get in for
supporting for that. Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you one better. He gets in for Dungeons and Dragons.
Or that one too. I would be all for it. Yeah. Little Mini Coops. I love him in that as well. But like, yeah, I mean, all joking aside, like I think he's genuinely awesome as Rocket in those movies. I mean, of course, they'll never take it seriously, but I still think it's one of the best performances of the year, regardless of the kind of film it is or the kind of performance that it is. So like motion capture, animated performances, like those really do need to be part of the conversation, I think. So generally speaking, I do agree with you, Joey. Like, yes, let's widen our horizons a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you what, as a SAG voter, I've been voting since the Lupita Nyong'o year, and I've only ever gotten a winner correct once or twice. So if I just tell you who I'm going to be voting for, they're not going to win. So you can just cross them off.
Just cross them off.
Literally. I remember talking with
Ryan.
Ryan.
Capitalize on that, Joey. That's how you get the money. Like, $10.
I remember talking
I'll tell you who I'm voting for.
With Ryan McQuaid last year, and I was like, because it's a running joke at this point, and I was like, I really just want to vote for Everything Everywhere All at Once in all the categories because it's not going to win. But I'm like, he's like, you should do it. I was like, but if it wins, I'm going to live with that regret that I helped it win. And so I talked to him the other day. He's like, you need to vote for Lily Gladstone. I'm like, no, because then if she wins, I'm going to feel so bad. So don't worry.
Like, she's going to win. Just accept it. It's fine.
I'll tell you who's not winning. Let me tell you.
No, I agree with what you said, JD. Like, I don't want to come off as like, someone from a franchise movie can't get in. I mean, that if I feel the performance is worthy, that's one thing. Like last year, I wanted Mia Goth to get in for Pearl. I thought that was one of the 5 best female lead performances of the year.
Or Lupita.
So especially with the horror genre, that's my favorite genre. So that does piss me off year to year when we didn't really get one in 2023. I feel like a really good Oscar-worthy performance in a horror film. I
Oh,
don't think we got one.
The girl from Talk to
Oh,
Me.
that was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a quiet year for that genre in terms of like
Very
awards
quiet
friendly
year.
stuff. But yeah, no, it shouldn't just be if someone's great in something and it's just not quite what the Academy goes for, we should still consider them for sure.
I agree. I mean, especially because, as we talked about earlier, they're clearly already doing this to some degree when we're including a movie like Poor Things, you know, or some of these, or Everything Everywhere All at Once. So like we're getting there, but like, yeah, we could certainly go even a little bit broader. But I mean, even like, do you guys think Barbie 30 years ago would have been an Oscar player? I don't know if it would have.
It's funny when I did like an initial prediction video in like June, and I was like, well, maybe Barbie could get like a couple technical, and it gets 18 Critics' Choice Award nominations, and I'm like, whoa! And it's on my top 10 list. I love Barbie. It's fantastic. One the best movie night of 2023 was watch. I saw Barbie and Oppenheimer back to back with a dinner in between, and it was an amazing night. It was incredible. And it's a great film, so I'm happy it's getting recognition. I don't know if it needs 18 nominations. That's a bit much, but like, I mean, in terms of acting, like I do think Ryan Gosling is worthy of his supporting actor nomination. I feel like if someone was going to beat Downey Jr. somewhere along the way, namely SAG, I feel like Ryan Gosling has the best shot. I could see him winning something over Downey Jr. But yeah, Barbie like winning Best Picture of the Year and stuff like that. I feel like that's a bit much. But I'm happy to see it. It is definitely. It feels like a summer movie, and for that to be doing as well as it is months and months and months later, it's kind of cool. Like you don't see that very very often.
Yeah, and to speak to Barbie, I do. There's one other SAG element I want to speak to real fast, but since we're on the Barbie train, Gerwig does get in for DGA, so it's still clearly, like actively a player here in some way.
Yeah, yes. I'm nervous at the Oscars. Like the director's branch can often, like push aside like kind of a favorite or a big blockbuster movie like they did Denis Villeneuve for Dune, didn't get in at the Oscars, and they'll go with a more obscure kind of international pick or something. Like I'm not convinced they're going to nominate Greta Gerwig for Barbie at the Oscars in director. Like I'm a little bit I'm not convinced of that yet.
And
people need to
ask
prepare
you
themselves
about that. Yeah, and Joey, feel free to chime in here as well. Like it feels like the two that are likely to miss that I've seen anyway, based off of the feedback and the general discussion around these films, is Gerwig and Alexander Payne will probably be nominated for writing. The film is going to be nominated for Best Picture, but
he didn't write the script.
That's right, he didn't.
He didn't write the holdovers.
This is one of the few that he didn't write.
Yeah.
Well, the film itself will probably be nominated for writing. I mean, they love Payne. They've nominated him in director a couple of times before. I think the last time we got together, you mentioned that, Brian. So maybe he does make it, but it does feel like if someone was to miss, it's either Gerwig or Payne out of the 5 nominated for DGA anyway. Or no?
So
or am I way off on that?
This is going to be a take. I actually had to think of. I was like, you realize what you're about to say. Yes, I'm like, yeah, here it comes. I don't love Gerwig as a director. I think she's a way better actor than she is director. I did not like Lady Bird. I did not like Little Women. I did not like Barbie. She is 0-3 for me.
Oh, come on.
We're going to fight again.
I don't think she respect where respect is, but she's not. It's not for me. It's not
Fair
for
enough.
me.
Yeah.
I'd be totally fine with her missing. I'm expecting, what's her name, Justine Trivet for Anatomy of a Fall to get in there. I think she'll get in. My question is, though, why does everyone think Yorgos is so safe? Why isn't Yorgos the possibility, or even Marty the possibility? Because here's the thing.
Those are much flashier films from a director.
But here's the issue. The only reason Killers of the Flower Moon is getting anything right now is because it's Marty Scorsese. If another director had directed that, the movie was a bomb. It didn't make money, and every studio passed on it because of the budget. Why is Marty getting a pass? Is it because it's Marty?
Well, that film wasn't made to be financially successful in the same ways Oppenheimer and Barbie were, because it was made for the platform first.
Well,
So
like
I don't
Paramount
think it's
passed
fair to
on
look at it from an apples to apples comparison in that way. And it did make a lot of money given its strategy in that regard. But that money from Apple's perspective, they've made that up with everything else that they've done in terms of the branding that comes along with Killers of the Flower Moon. Plus, it's going to get all of this awards love, and it's going to end up making a lot of money in that regard as well. And it's also one of the best films of the year. It's Martin Scorsese. It's not just the name. I think it is one of the best films of the year.
Right, and that's a thing, but that's where I guess maybe I worded my question wrong. But essentially, if this was any other director, it would not be happening, because a lot of people want to always talk about box office. Well, it made $150 million on a $200 million. It was a bomb. There was no financial success with that movie.
If you look at it conventionally, but I don't think that's how it should be looked at, though, because it wasn't made.
I'm not
its
saying
its release strategy wasn't exclusively the theaters.
Right, but so again, that's not my perspective on it. It's kind of usually how it is with the awards people.
But I guess that is the question, because
So why? Right. So why
is that how they're looking at it?
Right.
I mean,
So
if
does
so, it
Marty-
would be myopic, but maybe
So
that is
does
the
Marty get
reality
the
of it.
pass though because it's Marty?
Yeah.
I don't think box office plays a big role at what you're talking about. If a movie bombs hard, that's a problem. But like,
Which it
I mean,
didn't.
but I feel like a lot of movies every year that get into Best Picture and other top categories aren't necessarily like huge box office movies. You know, it depends on what the content of the movie is, like what it's about. But
And that's interesting, because there was conversation yesterday about why Barbie is going to likely end up missing. And again, this isn't me talking. I'm just paying attention to the discourse and others like yourselves that are more in this world. But the DGA, from what I was reading, or maybe not the DGA, but the collective voting body, they typically don't necessarily go for the like the big box office popular films all of the time. Like Gerwig gets in because it's Gerwig, but maybe it's, like they prefer the Killers of the Flower Moon. Like those are the kind of movies they typically love more.
I do think it won't be a good look if they don't nominate a woman, because we have 3 movies that should qualify there. I mean, you have Greta Gerwig Barbie, Celine Song Past Lives, and Justine Triet. Is that you say your last name? Triet?
I believe so.
Yeah, true.
Which I think she is getting in.
All 3 of those would be worthy Oscar nominations for Best Director. So I'm hoping one of them gets in.
Yeah. So, I mean, the film Killers of the Flower Moon, that is, made $156 million at the box office on a $200 million budget. And I agree with you, Joey. You look at that and it's like, okay, it didn't quite make back its money. It's also a 3-hour epic that it didn't quite hit the wide release for the same amount of time of something like Barbie and Oppenheimer, because it's going to go to the platform. Like, it's made for the platform. So
I think
it's going to make money on the awards front, or on the run in that way as well.
I think Scorsese is safe because he's such a legend, and many, many, many people love Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
And then I feel like Lanthimos is safe. He got in for his last movie, The Favorite. And I think Poor Things is one of the great visionary movies of the year. It's not a movie anybody could have just made. Like, that feels very much him in Poor Things. Like, this is one singular vision of this guy. And I think people are going to recognize that. I think he's very much respected in the industry, especially by other directors. So I do think those 2 with Nolan are safe. And then slots 4 and 5 there's like 5 or 6 people fighting over those last 2 slots. I'll be curious to see what happens on Oscar nominations this morning. I just hope they nominate at least one woman, because that won't look, that's not going to look good if they don't nominate a woman there.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess the presumption is Justine Triet, right? Like, she's the one that's likely going to get in over Jonathan Glazer, for example, or...
Yeah, for a long time, I thought Glazer might get the Oscar nomination, because, I mean, like, the directing job he does on that movie is so specific and interesting.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
And he's done good work for many years with like Birth and Under the Skin. And he's never really been recognized in a major way by an awards body. So
because his films are super weird.
That would be cool. Like, that would be not, but I also don't want him to take away a nomination for like a Trier or something. But
yeah, especially if Gerwig doesn't get in.
I feel more confident about Payne than others do because they have nominated him 3 times before in Best Director, and The Holdovers is an amazing movie. So
I agree.
that would be strange to me actually if they don't nominate him, especially now that he got in at DGA. So we'll see.
And I don't know if I'm on an island with this, and I love Anatomy of a Fall. Let me put that out there. It's in my top 10 of the year. It's great. The performances and the screenplay are especially striking. I do think, though, if I'm looking at it from a direction perspective, I think Alexander Payne has a little bit more going on in The Holdovers in terms of the aesthetics of that film, the whole how he like that film feels like it was shot in 1976 and they put it in a can and it released in 2023. Like that to me is really impressive. And again, I like Anatomy of a Fall a lot, and as a visual feast, I think that film is serviceable for sure. But I think the strengths of that film are in the screenplay and the performances mostly, or firstly, where I wouldn't have an issue if Payne got in over her, is what I'm saying. But to your point, though, Brian, if it comes at the cost of no women in this category,
it's not going to be a good look.
It wouldn't be a good look. I agree. I do agree. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Joey.
No, I agree with you guys. Like,
Fair enough.
I've got nothing because there's nothing for me to disagree with or nothing for me to add to it because you guys like hit it on the head there. So I wanted to bring the question up about Marty and Yorgos. That was it.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
Circling it back to SAG real fast, you mentioned this earlier, Brian, but I just want to emphasize it one more time because it's one of the performances of the year for me, and that's Penelope Cruz in Ferrari. My God, I love her in that role. It's, I think it is a buffet of excellence in supporting for female supporting roles this year, and whether it's Randolph, and it looks like she's the front runner, she's probably going to win, and I'm going to be delighted that she ends up winning that. But Penelope Cruz would be my personal vote for that category, and just to see her get in and make a splash in some way, even if she has no chance at winning the Oscar, to get into the 5 would be awesome. Because to this point, there's been very little in terms of her being talked about, other than I've been tweeting about her every single day. So if she gets in, I'm taking personal responsibility. I'm sorry. But that was very exciting to see. So I just wanted to emphasize that because that's maybe the performance of the year for me. I love her so much.
Well, again, I feel pretty confident that Cruz is going to make it in at the Oscars. So you'll be very happy.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Justice for, speaking of Anatomy of a Fall, Milo McKendry-Grenner.
Yes.
He is the
so
one.
Good.
He is the one. Give me that Lakeith Stanfield nomination. Give me that Andrea Riseborough nomination. That is who I need here so badly. Like, in a perfect world, in my world, he has had that Oscar plated with his name since that movie dropped. He is sweeping everything, critics and industry awards. But my question to you guys is, we are seeing To Leslie Part 2 starting to unfold already with Anjanou Ellis. Is she getting in?
I
And
saw
who's
that
it
today.
now?
So all that happened was Frances Fisher tweeted out a couple things about the movie. Is that all that's happened?
Frances Fisher tweeted out, Regina King has been holding screenings with live Q&As with them. The Andrea Riseborough has also started. Oh yeah. I mean, this is really interesting. This is why I've always said no one's ever truly a lock. And then again, and then I'm the curmudgeon for everybody. But the thing is like, in the end, it comes down to the voters. It's, how does someone win? You vote. You always have a route, but you vote. And the thing is like, if we see this happen again after all these new rules were brought in, it is just another way for the studios to get all uppity about what is happening and showing that there are such cracks in the system. So does it help or does it hurt if she gets in?
Can you explain the new rules?
So
An overview anyway.
So a lot of it from last year, and the reason why Frances Fisher got in trouble, which was interesting because the Academy president also broke protocol for Michelle Yeoh last year with personally, what's the word I want to use? Not when you're campaigning, but when you like in DC, when you have lobbyists, when you lobby for certain things to happen and certain, viewings to happen, that became kind of quote unquote illegal without certain ways to get it done. So like Regina King's screening she's been hosting were approved and blah, 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 and yeah, all that stuff. So that was a big rule they put in, is that it has to be approved and all this stuff. That's why we're not seeing Trace Lysette, who should be in there in the conversation for Monica, for an example. That's why we're not, we're not getting these smaller movies this year, but all of a sudden Ingenue is popping back in from the same people who did it last year. So does it hurt? Or does it help the studio system problem?
Well, here's my take on that. I just watched Origin about a week ago. I've had the screener forever, and it was the last screener in that giant neon set, and I was doing it in order. So I got to Origin about a week ago, and she is phenomenal in that movie, and I thought it was an excellent film. And I think part of the problem with Riseborough was that, she took the spot of like two extraordinary Black women who had been getting in almost everywhere, and then they didn't make it at the Oscars. If Carey Mulligan didn't make it at the Oscars and Ingenue Ellis Taylor took her spot, I'd be happy about that. That'd be awesome. Because it's a great performance.
Yeah.
And I feel like that movie is not going to do well at the box office. Very few people are going to go see it.
They've barely marketed it.
They haven't marketed it very well.
The general audience even knows that it's coming out.
And she's a previous nominee. She was nominated for King Richard 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be unprecedented if there was a shocker inclusion there. I mean, I wouldn't want her to take the place of like Greta Lee. That'd be me, but
I hear you.
That would not be the same situation, I feel like. I think people would have an issue because she's not been showing up anywhere all season long. Yeah. And when you don't show up anywhere and then all of a sudden you're there at the Oscars, people are like, what? How'd that happen?
Yeah.
But I think her performance in Origin speaks for itself. It's a great piece of work. And I think she's very talented. And so if that were to happen, I'm not going to cry about it. Like she's very good in the movie.
I agree. Joey, do you think that there's actually movement there? Do you think that could happen?
I do.
Yeah, is that why
I do?
It up? Okay.
That's why I brought it up. I do think it's going to happen. And I'll be really excited. I love an underdog story. I really do.
Okay. Very cool. She's great in it, so she gets in. No complaints from me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know we're going a little long here. Is there anything else you guys wanted to touch on as we stand currently? I don't know if you guys wanted to mention cinematography. I think
Oppenheimer.
Yeah, of course. I guess we can leave it at that.
I just one last quick thing about SAG is especially lead actress and lead actor, like the lineup at the Oscars is not going to be the same. We're going to get some surprises at Oscar. It's not going to be 5 for 5 like both.
Yes.
Like I could see at the Oscars both lead actor and actress being just like 3 out of 5 of what happened at SAG, and then we have a couple surprises at the Oscars. Especially Sandra Hüller is getting in at the Oscars.
BAFTA.
For Anatomy of a Fall.
I'm going to take BAFTA. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
That I feel like she should always be in Best Actress. That is an incredible performance.
Yeah.
And her not being there at SAG is not a good look for them.
Yeah.
Ever since the merger, there has not been, I mean, if Isabelle Huppert couldn't get in for Elle, I was like, I'm not expecting this. And it's sad because we used to see it. Catalina Sandino Moreno got in for Maria Full of Grace. And I mean, I guess you could count Jean Dujardin. I'm putting that in quotes, but I mean, whatever. But I mean, Emmanuel Riva didn't get in. I mean, there's this weird bias with the foreign language performances, and I don't get it. I don't get it.
To Brian's point, I do think that'll change come Oscar nomination morning. Speaking of, we are going to have a Chasing the Gold episode next week where we do predictions for Oscar nomination morning, so be on the lookout for that. I don't know exactly what that'll look like because our beloved Brian Rowe will be at Sundance, so he will not be a part of that conversation. Of course, you can go to his channel. I'm sure he'll have lots of thoughts on it. But when Brian gets back from Sundance and after we hear the nominations, we'll have another Chasing the Gold and we'll get his thoughts.
Absolutely.
Then. In the meantime, I guess that'll do it for this episode. Brian, tell us where we can find your work and where can we find you on social media?
So I'm on Twitter at Mr. Brian Rowe, Mr. Brian Rowe, and on YouTube, I'm at the Awards Contender, new videos every week.
Yep. Please go and check it out. Really, really great stuff. Mr. Joey Gentile, thank you for being here as well, my friend.
Yes, thank you.
Where can we find you on social media?
At the bar at this point. If you want to stick around for some spiciness, at Joey Gentile 1992. Yes. You can check out my production company's website at 223films.com. We're actually almost done filming, so hopefully in the next year or two, you guys might be able to start talking about our stuff. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's really it for me. Social media these days. Yeah, there it is.
You can find some of Joey's work at InSessionFilm.com.
Oh yeah, that too. Duh. Hello.
Yeah.
Well, I'm at InSessionFilm.com.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Really do appreciate it. Looking forward to what the next few weeks will look like. So we'll talk about that soon. I also just want to promote real fast on the main show this last weekend. I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it again. The 2023 In Session Film Awards. It was great. We always split it into two parts. Part one is the categories part of it. Best director, the acting categories, all that fun stuff. And then part two is our top 10 movies of the year. So that is out. That is available. You can watch that on YouTube if you're watching here on YouTube, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can find that there as well. In the meantime, thanks everybody for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, all that fun stuff. Follow us on social media as well. Just search In Session Film. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. This was a lot of fun. And we'll see you all next time on the In Session Film Podcast.